All Progressives Congress, APC party primaries are getting set to take place. Presidential hopefuls, governorship aspirants, and others looking to secure party tickets to represent their various constituencies will be testing their popularity at the party primaries. Currently, there is confusion over the panel that will screen presidential aspirants and when the exercise will take place. The party had on Sunday night postponed indefinitely its screening of presidential aspirants earlier scheduled for Monday. The confusion over the screening of aspirants followed comments by the National Organizing Secretary of the party, Suleiman Agungu, that the party will be screening the aspirants between 24th and 25th of May 2022. However, on Tuesday morning, the National Publicity Secretary of the party, Felix Moka, restated the earlier position of the party on the indefinite suspension of the exercise. Joining us on the show as we discuss the readiness of the party ahead of its primaries, and also to get some clarity on the presidential screening, is Kayode Fayemi, Governor of Ekiti State and presidential aspirant on the platform of the All Progressives Congress, APC. Good morning, Governor Fayemi, and thank you for joining us.
Morning, Ruben.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
To be here.
Yes, thank you indeed. Well, quickly, in the intro, I was talking about the screening. What do we know about the screening, presidential screening, on the platform of the APC? Have you gone for your screening yet? Do you have an idea when the screening will start? That's one. The second thing, you were quoted as having said through your spokesperson that in the APC, out of this array of 25 aspirants, that there are only 5 serious persons, and that in due course we would know who the pretenders are and who the contenders are. So I assume, of course, that you are one of the 5, because it's not likely you will rule yourself out. So who are the other 4 that you see as serious aspirants? And we can just assume that the rest are pretenders.
Well, thank you very much, Ruben, for having me on the program. On the first question you asked about what I know of the screening, well, we're all still waiting for information, but we're confident that the party will do the right thing, and we would all have the people who have obtained the nomination forms screened before we go into the presidential primaries Sunday, Monday. So we still have time, and I believe that the party will do that which is right. On your second question, really, that was just a joke. The governor of Niger State, where I made that statement in passing, was talking about receiving only just about 5 of us. That is only received 5 aspirants in his state, and he was wondering why he had not received more than 5. And I jokingly retorted that maybe that's because there are only 5 serious aspirants going around the country to sell their wares to party members across the length and breadth of the country, and that maybe the rest are pretenders. But that's just a joke. It's not a comment that should be taken too seriously. Others may have their own strategies. They may have reasons for not going around the various states to meet party members, delegates, leaders of thought, and you can't begrudge them their strategy. I see that many of our aspirants are on television, buying up space to give a sense of what they would like to do when they get into office. Others may prefer physical contact. Maybe those who prefer physical contact are the ones going around the country.
But is there any reason why your party keeps postponing the screening of the aspirants? And are you considering the consensus option? And if so, do you think it's democratic, considering there are more than 20 aspirants in the field?
Morning, Audrey. Yes, good to be here. Good to see you. I really do not think there is any cause for alarm. The party will do that which it must do. Don't forget, we are also working with a deadline. The electoral management body has given the deadline of June 3rd for all these processes to be completed. All I know is by that date, the All Progressives Congress would have a candidate presented to INEC. I'm very certain about that. As for your other questions about consensus being undemocratic, I don't necessarily think consensus is undemocratic. Consensus is not antithetical to democracy. I think it's the process through which you arrive at consensus that is what we need to take into account. But if you want to talk about party constitution, consensus is provided for in the APC constitution. Direct election of all members is also provided for. And indirect election of delegates is provided for. So you have three options. The new Electoral Act has introduced another dimension to consensus if the party eventually decides to go for consensus. And that is that all competing aspirants must subscribe to that person, must sublimate their own ambition to that of the person that has been identified as the consensus candidate. So really, once you get the buy-in of all aspirants and they agree on one person to be the candidate representing the party, there is nothing anti-democracy about that. It's just the will of the members. However, I would prefer for us to have a competition that would allow members of the party to examine competing visions. We've all been going around the country. We've all been sharing our ideas of how to make Nigeria a better place with those delegates, with members of the party. And I think that opportunity should be given at the end of the day. But whatever the party decides to do, as long as it is consistent with the constitution of the party and the Electoral Act, I don't have a problem with that.
All right. The name Goodluck Ebele Jonathan has been mentioned as a possible consensus scenario in the APC. I mean, what say you about this name being mentioned?
Well, maybe I don't have the right information. I'm not even aware that former President Goodluck Jonathan is a member of this party. And if he is indeed a member of this party, which I may not know because you joined the party at your ward level, and I'm not from Bayelsa State, so I don't have details of what is happening at our party level in Bayelsa State. But be that as it may, if former President Jonathan has put his hat in the ring and is considering to run, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I don't want to speculate on what I don't have information on, Rufai.
All right, but it's in the papers anyway, just to let you know, and it's out there everywhere. The name is being, the momentum is up again. That's what the papers are saying.
Let's talk about Section 84A.
You know, newspapers report all manner of things.
Let's talk about Section 84.8. The National Assembly called off its recess and returned to reconsider the point about delegates, and then recommended that there should be statutory delegates. And it was expected that the president will sign that re-amended Section 84.8, but the president has not done so. Well, the point is the president has not done anything wrong. He's still within the time allowed within the Constitution. But there have been reactions to that. Some people thought, that perhaps if the president had signed, that would have allowed statutory delegates to be part of the primaries, as was the case previously. But some people then say that, look, it's better the president did not go the way of changing the goalpost while the game is already on. And that in any case, having more delegates will make the process more expensive and it will increase the number of delegates. What are your thoughts on what has happened so far with regard to that attempt to amend or re-amend Section 84.8?
Well, Ruben, I'm a stickler for the rule of law. Whatever the law says, particularly the extent provision of the Electoral Act, is what I believe we should go by so that we don't run foul of any provisions that may then end up in the courtroom. As much as possible, I believe elections should be settled by the electorate, not by the courts. Having said that, I think it's important to trace the trajectory of this particular situation. You would recall that there were a number of contentious issues in the Electoral Act, and the president insisted the first time it was sent to him that options should be provided in terms of the mode of primaries. And that was done in the amended Electoral Act. However, this other issue has come up as to the removal, either deliberately or by mistake, the removal of statutory delegates, including governors, National Assembly members and former National Assembly members, and even Mr. President himself and the Vice President. I think my view is that the President is right to have requested his Attorney General, because that's what I understand to have happened, to have requested his Attorney General to look at the position of the law vis-a-vis the timing of this new introduction and what that might mean. I think what this speaks to is that we have an electoral act that has not been comprehensively and legally scrutinized by professionals. Everything had been rushed, and I believe it's good for the president's team to look at this a lot more carefully, because it's still within the 30-day provision of assent. So he has not run foul of the law. Maybe there will be other things that will be discovered, just like this was discovered. It's better to cure all inadequacies in the Electoral Act and then go with what is there, as long as this then becomes the basis of subsequent amendments that can then apply to subsequent elections. I don't think any damage has been done beyond the number of people who would form the electorate college in the electoral college in the primaries, in the event that what is chosen by the party, in our own case, the All Progressives Congress, is the indirect mode of primary. We don't know yet. We may still end up with a direct mode of primary in which all members of our party are allowed to vote. So I don't think we should jump to that conclusion. At least on the part of APC, the mode of election, the mode of primary has not been decided. I would err on the side of caution, and I agree with Mr. President. If he chooses not to sign it before this process ends, he would be actually acting appropriately in my view.
All right. I'm glad that you said that you're a stickler to the rule of law. Now, as an insider, has your party taken any position on Section 84.12? Because according to your party guidelines, an aspirant should resign at least 30 days before the primaries. Are you worried that ministers who recently resigned, let's say Amechi, Onu, Akpabio, for example, may face legal challenges if they emerge as the party's candidate?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, I think there's a conflict between that particular section of the Electoral Act and the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And in situations where that happens, I think the constitutional position supersedes any other subsidiary law. And I believe that is what the contention has been. There is always a situation in which something is morally right without being legally wrong. And if those involved have convinced themselves that they haven't done anything illegal or unconstitutional, then if anyone chooses to take them to court, that would be appropriate. I'm actually a good example of this. You would recall that there was a case in relation to my own election in 2018, in which my opponent in the primaries, my brother Sheguni, went to court to suggest that I did not resign in accordance with the extant provision of the law. And that clearly was thrown out because I resigned before the election, and I also did not have any issue with the timing of the law, because the provision at that time is even different from what you have in the Electoral Act now. It was the constitutional provision that was being challenged at the time. And the position of the law is that the constitutional provision is 30 days to election. So if an interpretation of this current position is that it is 30 days before primary election, or election is defined as both primary election and general election, then maybe you're right. Maybe that position can be challenged. But it all depends on what the court rules, if that happens.
Okay. After 8 years of President Muhammadu Buhari, can you tell me why you think APC, or do you think APC deserves to come back to power?
Thank you, Rufai. Well, I think it's important to also put things in perspective. Where were we when President Buhari came into office in 2015? We were having a spate of insecurity, even right here in the capital, Abuja. The UN house was bombed. The police headquarters was attacked. The church in Madala was attacked. The bus station in Inyanya was attacked. And there was a general palpable fear of safety and security among the citizens, not to mention what was happening in the Northeast at that particular time. That has changed. The Northeast insurgency has reduced significantly. Of course, we must take into account various mutations of insecurity in the North Central and in the Northwest, which require response from governments. So let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's just the point I'm making. And it is precisely because government has to do more, and government has done quite a lot under President Muhammadu Buhari, that you need someone who has institutional memory, who has engagement and knowledge of what had transpired, and also an awareness of what the gaps are. And I believe APC would be well pleased to do that, especially if I am the candidate chosen by the party to be the flag bearer.
Well, Governor, let me ask you this. You were quoted as having said in Oshogbo this week that the people from the Southwest, all of you from the Southwest who are seeking the position of president on the platform of the APC, that you are not at war, that you are all seeking the success of the region. But Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, leader of your party and also an aspirant, early this month, was quoted as having said that, look, he's the only candidate as far as he is concerned. And that other people, he doesn't know all these people that he has tried to try to promote, are now also eyeing the presidency of Nigeria. So if we interpret that, it may look like some of you who used to be Asiwaju's associates trying to compete with him for the ticket of the APC. Was he more or less saying that that's like an act of affront to him? How do you feel about that?
No. I don't think so, Ruben. That statement that you quoted from Asiwaju, I didn't listen to that statement. I'm not suggesting that you are not quoting him correctly, but I just wasn't privy to that particular statement. But I think what is important, that statement that is the only one in the race is similar to what you quoted me as saying in Mina, that there are only 5 contenders and not 23 who have obtained the form. That's in the nature of competition. Asiwaju that I know is a Democrat. He and I have been in the trenches fighting for Nigeria to return to democracy. So I don't think Asiwaju would feel any sense of betrayal that any of us are offering competing visions for the betterment of Nigeria. I've also heard Asiwaju say something like, let 1,000 flowers bloom, the more the merrier. So if you are quote him comprehensively. Don't just quote him in isolation, because I know him to be a Democrat.
I like that answer, okay?
All right, Governor Fayemi. And there is this notion that the Governors Forum formed this powerful bloc within the APC. Now, you are the chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum. Some people are saying perhaps you are the governor's consensus candidate. Are you?
You're going to have to ask my colleagues that question, Oji. I would like to be their consensus candidate, and I would like to think I have very robust and warm relationship with all the governors, regardless of their party, whether PDP, APC, or ABGA. In fact, you don't see me go to any state to campaign and solicit for the votes of our delegates without first making the point of paying a courtesy visit to the governor of the state, regardless of whether that governor belongs to my party or not. So I'm sure if I emerge as the candidate of the APC, all governors across party divides will be very happy, because they know me to be a bridge builder. They know me to be a unifier. They know me to be someone who will work for Nigeria on the basis of equity, on the basis of fairness, on the basis of justice. And if that's the decision of APC governors particularly, because they are the ones who can make that happen, then I would not disappoint them.
You talked about the need for institutional memory and hence the need for continuation. I'd like to ask you, what giant strides has the APC achieved in the economy that you'd like to continue on?
Actually, quite a number. Rufai, if you look at the area of transparency and accountability, the APC government has done significantly well in public finance management. The Treasury account, for example, TSA, and the open portal, you see that these are significant developments that have now become part of government's DNA. I know, working with institutions of government, that it's something that has been taken to heart and something that we work with them on, also at the subnational level. When you look at the program on transparency, accountability, and sustainability, SIFTAs, that we are implementing in all the 36 states. You look at e-procurement programs, you look at the efficiency of budgetary performance under this government. That's something that never used to be the case in the past.
But how's that impacted the economy?
That's a significant area. Well, how has that impacted the economy? When there's a correlation between transparency and anti-corruption, Rufai, and I'm sure you know that. When you run a more transparent and a more accountable government, there is reduction in what is available for pilfering. And that is significant. It may be intangible in some respects, but it is a significant progress from where we used to have a government that would say to you, stealing is not corruption. I think that's significant, but I don't want to just dwell on that. I think if you look at the agricultural sector as well, government has done quite a lot in incentivizing our farmers and ensuring that there is a support basis for them in terms of increasing productivity. And that has seen huge increases in the production of maize, in the production of rice, in the production of cassava, and in the South, it's seen increases also in oil palm production, it's seen increases in cocoa production, but it's still not where we want to be. We still need to close some gaps in order to consolidate on the gain that government has made in that respect.
Okay, two quick things as we begin to wrap up. The papers reported yesterday that the president was going to meet with the presidential aspirants ahead of the party presidential primaries. Has that meeting taken place, or it's been fixed for some time before Sunday? And then secondly, Ekiti gubernatorial election, June 18. Your party is fielding former secretary to the state government, whom you are accused of having imposed on the party. What's your response to that? Because the general perception out there is that, oh, the governor anointed his successor, which is one of the fallouts from some of these primaries that we have been seeing also.
Well, on the first question, Ruben, I haven't been invited to any meeting yet, but that's not to suggest that there won't be a meeting. If Mr. President calls us to a meeting, we would be there. I'm sure all aspirants will show up and listen to the president. He's the leader of our party, apart from being the president of the country. As per imposition of candidates and all those tittle-tattle, it's in the nature of electoral competitions for losers to always find reasons why they've lost. This was a direct primary, not even an indirect primary of delegates. All members voted. The margin of Oyebanji's victory was in the 90-something percentile to the votes garnered by his opponents, many of whom are still in the party, running for various offices. Senator Fayemi Bamidele is likely to return as an unopposed senatorial candidate when that election takes place. He was one of the frontline competitors in that election. Again, in that particular election, you had pretenders, you had contenders. But just check the credentials of Biodun Oyebanji, apart from being my secretary to this government. He was chief of staff to Governor Niyi Adebayo in 2003, way back, a university lecturer, a former banker, a commissioner for budget and economic planning in the state before he became secretary to the state government. So if you're talking education, if you're talking experience, if you're talking commitment to party ideals, if you're talking compassion for the people, it ticks all those boxes. And June 18 is here. Ekiti people are the deciders of the fate of the next governor of Ekiti State. So I leave that to them to do that which is right.
Okay, on that note, we would like to thank you very much, Governor Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State, for joining us.